So welcome everybody, 17 May 2022. This is Yoel Kortick, Senior Librarian at Libris, and we're joined today by Noam Fass from Libris Product Management, both of us here in Jerusalem. And as part of our ongoing roadmap series, the Alma 2022 Alma Themes Roadmap Series, today we're discussing the new unified PO line task list, as well as some other developments around the purchase order line creation, purchase order line searching. We'll see all of this. This presentation, you will get a link to this in the chat. Those of you who are viewing this on YouTube, you will see a link to this presentation also in the description of the video. And also, we'd like to remind everybody that this is part of the regular series, the Roadmap Theme series here. And you've got a link here to the presentation. I'm going to send this out to everybody right now, this page, because this has several links, or actually it's got 2 links, and soon it will also have the recording. So everybody's got that. You have a link here to a description of the new unified PO line task list, as well as the rollout. So everything is here, enabling it. Noam is with us today, as I stated, so he will be able to answer questions as well about the rollout. First, we want to focus on the actual developments, the actual usage of it. So you've got the link to this page. You've also got here the link to the presentation that we just looked at. The presentation goes very in depth. It's over 100 slides. However, we're not going to look at all at the presentation today. We're going to do everything live. You're free to get the presentation. You're welcome to get the presentation on your own and look at it there. So without further ado, we're going to jump right in, and we're going to divide this session into 2 distinct parts. The first part is we're going to create a new purchase order line from scratch. From the very beginning, we're going to import a record and create a purchase order line. During the creation of the purchase order line, we'll be able to point out new features around the purchase order line as well as around the task list. After we receive the item, we're going to go through the whole process of creating the purchase order line, sending it, and receiving an item. Then we're going to focus specifically on the purchase order line task list and everything around that. Before we jump right in, Noam, is there anything you want to add there?
Available for any question, Yoel.
Okay, so let's jump right in. So I'm going to search for a record. Just so we'll have an example of something we want to order. So what I'm doing right now is just going to cataloging, resources, going to search for a record. What we're looking at right now specifically is not something new. I'm just going to search for a record. From the moment we create the purchase order line, that will be the new part. So I'll search for anything here. I'll search even for, let's search for webinar. Training with contains keywords, and we'll take something here. Okay, library workplace idea. There's a nice one, so I'll take that. Import. The library workplace idea book. I'm going to write that one down just in case we want to be using that as an example later. Okay. And now we're going to create the order. I'm just going to get rid of some of these 900 fields. Okay, so we'll create the order. Library Workplace Idea Book. I just want to take that with me in case we want to do a search later. And order. So I'm clicking the icon up on top. Again, until now, everything's the same as it has been until we actually see the order. And let's now create the order. I'll say this is going to be a print book one time. And I'll say my PO line owner will be main library. I'm not going to use a template now. I want to show filling everything in manually on purpose. Create purchase order line. Now we'll see the new purchase order line fields, the task list. So it brings me right away to the task list. And if I want to edit this, I'll click on it here. And now I have two panes. Actually, I got three panes, so two panes and a facet set. And on the right is where I can start editing the purchase order line. I can make the right pane larger or smaller by dragging here. Those of you who were in the holdings record sessions we had about the advanced holdings search will notice a very similar screen here. In fact, I was very often stating while showing the holdings records, where do you see the PO line task list? It'll be the same. And now I can say, wait until you see the resource sharing request task list, also along the same lines. So we can make each of the panes a different size simply by dragging. As you see, we get more or less information. Right now we're seeing, for example, on the purchase order line here, the purchase order line type, purchase order line status. If I drag this way, now I have another option here to continue the workflow, as well as several action items. I don't have those options when I'm dragging this way. I drag more, I have even more. Now I've got the identify, the owning library, the copies, and a link to the alerts. And I have less on the right pane. I can also entirely collapse the left pane by clicking here, and that's going to open the full page view. Now I'm in the entire purchase order line, and I can go from here and start filling it in. Let's put it by default in the middle here. By the way, we have here a way to also change the settings rather than dragging. We've got the list view, we've got the split view, and we've got the full page view, which we can also get to by dragging. So let's start filling in the purchase order line. So we can scroll through parts of the purchase order line, or we can go directly to a section by choosing the sections. For example, instead of me scrolling down to the vendor information to start filling in the vendor, I can go directly to the vendor by doing sections. If I'm all the way at the top and I want to come here, I can go right to the vendor information, and that will bring me directly there without needing to scroll. If I was in the full view, I can also go through the sections simply by clicking here. For example, I'm going to click vendor information, and now I'm directly at the vendor information. So no need to scroll. You can go directly to a section. Those of you who edit purchase order lines today will notice that this is, in a sense, and I'll say only in a sense, parallel to the tabs that we have today inside the purchase order line. So if we're already here in the vendor information, let's start filling it in. I'm going to put in the code for a vendor. The AJAX will pick it up. The AJAX, that's the asynchronous Java XML behind the scenes. As you know, in Alma in several places, you start typing a code, it starts looking it up. So now we've got a vendor. Now it also says here, enter price to select funds. So right here, where I'm moving my mouse, in the pricing and funding section, I can't add a fund yet until I add a price. So first I'm going to put in a price. So right here we've got list price, and I'll give it a list price of, let's say I want 61.3 euro. Now it no longer, let me save that. Now it no longer says add a price to enter fund. Now I can directly click here to add a fund. So I will click here to add a fund. And let's choose the fund education. Again, the AJAX is picking it up, and I'm going to choose education 01. Okay, this is the fiscal period. My fiscal period is going from January to December. So now we have a fund. We also have a vendor. I'll save that. Let's put in some more information here. Let's go all the way to the top and review. So we've got purchase order line information automatically. We're not going to make it in manual packaging. The item is automatically created, like today. We added our material supplier. It's bringing the expected receiving day, the number of days until we expect it to arrive, according to the defaults of the vendor. We gave it a price. We gave it a fund. Let's give it a receiving note. For example, please notify Professor Alicia Chen that it has arrived. Then place on the new arrivals display shelf. That's quite an arrival note, but there we go. Okay, and interested users, we won't do an interested user. Let's give a reporting code or two. And that's enough. And that should do it for our purposes. So now I've got a couple of options. I've got the continue workflow, which in this case would continue the workflow to be ready for packaging. And then at night, it would be sent with the purchase order line packaging job to the vendor, like today, but it's called continue workflow and not save or save and continue. And we can also from here, like we have today, do the order now. I'm going to do the order now. This is purchase order line 46006. I'm just going to take that with me in case we want, and order now. Confirm. So now we've sent the order, and I'm just going to stop for a moment and look at the chat. Let's see about any questions here. Will the purchase order lines task list always be opened as split screen or in full page to avoid extra clicking on the POL item? You can open the purchase order line either in split screen or in full screen, whichever one you'd like. I'm not sure exactly if I got the question properly, but you can open it either in split screen or in full screen like we did here. I'm now in full screen. If I wanted it in split screen, I could either start clicking here to return to split view, or I could choose up here split view. Either way. There's another chat there. What about notes to vendor or internal fund info? Okay, so there's more. I simply didn't show the entire. Someone else asks about PO line notes. Where can we access those? The notes to the vendor, I didn't show it. However, we've got it there too. Let's go look here. In the vendor here, I could add a note to the vendor here. Please supply paperback if you have it. For example. I'm not showing every option that exists due to the time, but we've got that 100 slide PowerPoint and the section in the online help that we referred to. Okay, so if you notice now, this has been sent already. If it didn't already say sent, it says sent because we got out and got in, so it refreshed. We also have a refresh option here, and that would update whatever has changed since the last time we looked at it. Let's now receive this, or yeah, let's actually receive it, and then we'll start looking at the full purchase order line task list. So if I wanted to search for this, I could search for it in many different ways now before we actually do the arrival, and that's going to be an introduction to the PO line task list. So to view the PO line task list, under acquisitions, we have here the purchase order lines. All of the sections or task lists, all of the task lists that we had before this new PO line task list still exist. If we go to all PO lines, that's going to bring us to, as the name suggests, all purchase order lines. If we wanted only the one that we did right now, then we could start faceting. For example, I want all of those which are sent. So here under workflow step, I'll choose sent. Those of you who were in the advanced holding search will notice it's the same type of faceting. We'll see this faceting throughout other areas of Alma. And we choose multiple facets and then apply. So first we'll take that it's sent. Then we'll get the vendor. So the vendor was Achen Publications. So that's going to give us everything sent for vendor Achen Publications. Now we did print book one time, so we can also get the purchase type here to give me only those which are print book one time. For example, right here. So now we've chosen three different facets. We've chosen workflow step sent. The purchase type is print book one time. The vendor is Achen Publishing, so that will cover what we just ordered today. Now I'll click apply, and now we have faceted by those three aspects and the specific purchase order line, which we did already. I'm just going to check the chat one more time. Okay, didn't see anything in through before. Now, someone's asking about the advanced search. Let's hold on the advanced search for a moment. Oh, two people asking about the advanced search. Okay, let's go on. Noam, do you want to comment now anything about the advanced search? One question is, where is the advanced search for order lines? And one, which may be your lead-in answer, is the objective of the new format to remove the advanced search options?
So no, we haven't removed anything. Yoel is presenting you now a working environment. I think it's May release. We plan to release it for early testers in August. And of course, in August, we will have the advanced search functionality. I would say even enhanced advanced search, providing the user's ability to use the or and parameters. Currently, they can only use the and. We will add the or parameter.
Yeah, I think in June I saw the or, Noam.
Exactly, you're correct.
Yeah, okay. So June will have the or. Okay, that's an or Boolean operator in the advanced search, to be a little more specific. Okay, let's go on. So now receiving. This is something very new now, what we're going to show in the receiving. Those of you who are used to receiving would do acquisitions receive, and then you would either be, you'd go here, and today you would either be at the receiving workbench, which is a receiving department, for example, an acquisitions department, or you would be in a circulation desk, which supports the acquisitions work orders, where you could receive. Now you can receive from directly inside the purchase order line. Brand new, and that prevents a lot of clicking, a lot of going somewhere else. You're already in the purchase order line. You want to receive. No need now to go to another menu option. You can do it right from in there. So let's take a look. I clicked on this, so now it's open. And if I go to the item right here, from here I can receive. You see it says not received here. You can see also, if I were to do a physical item search right now, for the library workplace idea book, let's go by title and let's search for the library workplace idea book. It will say not in place. Item not in place. Now, if we go to that order again, let's say one more time, I'm going to go. I could go, by the way, I could click right here and go to the order, but let's go through the task list. Just so we see again what's new here. So we're getting everything for the Achen. We're getting everything which is in workflow step sent. And this is going to bring us everything for Achen which is sent. And if we want, we can either go through these. There's only 6 of them. Here it is. Or we could even further facet. So now let's receive here. So from the ordered items, from the action items, directly from here I can receive. It's still possible to do it the old way and go to the receiving workbench the way it is today. However, now from within the purchase order line, I can click receive. Receiving process was activated for the selected purchase order lines. So now the receiving has started. You can already see here, it no longer says not received. Let's make that a little larger here. It says received. By the way, this we can also play around with the columns we want. For example, here I'm going to click customized. I'm here in the ordered items section. Let's make that a little larger. Let's go to the full page view. So here I could say if I don't want the item policy. Many institutions don't use an item policy because, as you know, Alma is location-based fulfillment. So I could remove the item policy right here and done. So I can change that. So this is already received. If we were to do that same exact physical items title search here, now it will no longer state not received. Now it's item in place. Someone says receiving item from the POL is a great improvement. Thank you. Okay, so now it has received. And we already saw that we can arrive directly to the purchase order line from the full list, but let's do that again. We'll go into acquisitions, all purchase order lines. Now it's no longer going to be sent. Now the workflow step is going to be waiting for invoice. So now under workflow step, we'll say waiting for invoice. And then we can still say we want the vendor to be a hen. This will give us everything from a hen, but let's get print book one time for the acquisition method. No, not the acquisition method, for the purchase type. Purchase type print book one time and apply. And there we are. So now there's 7 of them which are waiting, and the workplace idea proactive steps, here's ours right here. Okay, so now we're ready to dive into looking at the overall workflows and features of the unified PO line task list. We've gone through a process of creating a purchase order line, showing the purchase order line, editing it, receiving. So now we're going to jump right into the PO line task list itself. First, let's go take a look at the chat. Somebody asks, do you need to have a circulation desk with acquisitions department selected when receiving via the purchase order line? Yes, you do need to be, let me explain the answer differently with different text in the question. You need to be either at a circulation desk that supports acquisitions, or you need to be at an acquisitions department. Let me get rid of that. You need to be at an acquisitions department. Here, for example, when you say physically at, you need to be either at an acquisitions department or at a circulation desk which supports acquisitions. Now, even though this isn't something new, I'll explain what I mean by a circulation desk that supports acquisitions, just to refresh everybody. But again, it's not part of our specific developments here, but because we're talking about receiving and it's from within the purchase order line, so I'm going to go to configuration. I will choose a library, for example, the main library, because that's the one I'm using now. And in the circulation desks, a circulation desk can support acquisitions when we go to work order types, acquisition technical services. So you need to be either at an acquisitions department or at a circulation desk that supports acquisitions, like the circulation desk that we're looking at right now. Noam, you want to add anything on that?
Maybe I can just say that if in case the user is not located in the acquisition department or in the specifically receiving department, Alma will notify that there's no receiving department selected and the user will need to change the location.
Okay. All right, let's see if there's any other questions or comments. Someone says, will it also be possible to receive multiple items from a purchase order line? Are you referring to a situation where you have, for example, volume 1 and volume 2, or 2 items in one purchase order line, and you want to add the do receive on both simultaneously? Yes. Noam, you feel free to join in. As far as I know, we need to do action items receive, correct?
Correct. There's no multi-select function up until now, but we'll be happy to listen for feedback and maybe we'll enhance it in the future.
Okay. So the answer is one at a time. Okay. So let's move on now specifically to the new unified PO line task list. And again, I'm going to point out for the benefit of everybody that this page here, I sent you the link to the main page, goes through all the different parts we're going to show. And then you've got this 100 plus slide PowerPoint, which also goes through everything that we're going to show. It even compares what we have today to what's currently being developed, so you can compare the two. But we're going to close that PowerPoint and do it all live. All right, so the purchase order line task list, and here we are. So a few things. If we come here and we say all PO lines, so this is bringing us all purchase order lines with no facets, and it's a unified PO line task list. The unified part is the important part of that sentence. Unified, I've got it in my notes here, it's bold. It's all of the purchase order lines. If a user wanted to see which purchase order lines are in review and assigned to him or her, then he or she would click here, Review Purchase Order Lines, and it's the same exact list as the all PO lines, except it's pre-faceted by Assigned to Me and in Review. Again, the all PO lines is bringing us all purchase order lines. Review PO lines is bringing all purchase order lines pre-faceted by Assigned to Me and in Review. If I were to get rid of both of these facets, a clear all, then I will have 3,180 purchase order lines, which is the same as if I had done all PO lines. It's simply bringing that unified list pre-faceted. And that's the same if we were to choose package. It's going to bring all PO lines, but in this case, pre-faceted by manual packaging. Also, I'll do one more and then we'll get the point. If I were to choose claim, it's the same list as we've been seeing, but it's pre-faceted by in claim. A unified PO line task list, including all possible purchase order lines by type, by assignment, by in claim, not in claim, has alert, doesn't have alert, everything. And then when a user comes and chooses a specific section here, it's the same large list, or same full unified list, simply pre-faceted. That's also the case, by the way, if a user is choosing from the task list up on top here. If we come to this task list, let me move this. If we come to this task list right here, and we come to purchase order lines, and we were to choose, for example, those in claim, here's the order lines. If I take these claim, again, it's just going to bring me the full unified PO line task list, pre-faceted by PO line and claim. Yes. Let's do, oops, hit the wrong one. Sorry about that. Got it. Okay. I didn't want that. Okay. Sorry. Excuse me, everybody. I hit the check mark of my browser instead of the check mark of the task list. Okay, there we go. Task list. So that's the case with all of them. Let's just choose one more, just to get the point more. So if I were to choose package, Then it's going to show all of the purchase order lines with already faceted by manual packaging. Okay, let's see. Someone sent in the chat. Someone says, will this be in Sandbox prior to release? Noam, I'm going to let you discuss that. I will, however, point out everybody to the section here about enabling this. So, Noam, the question is, will this be in the Sandbox prior to release? Go ahead.
So my answer is, of course, like everything, the sandbox is ready before the actual production. But in our specific case, since we are releasing something new and we would like to gradually introduce it to our customers or to our users, this, what Yoel is just showing, enabling the new unified PO line task list, essentially provides the user the ability to opt in or opt out from the new unified task list in case they want to gradually, get acclimated with the layout. So users will have the ability to use their existing workflow, and if they will desire, they'll have the ability to opt in to the new layout. This will allow them to gradually, acclimate to the new presentation.
Okay, thank you, Noam.
Sure.
Someone else says, do users with staff rights for only certain libraries see all PO lines in the main task list or only the ones they have rights for? Noam, do you want to take that?
So we are planning to preserve any existing functionality. So if users were able to see something currently, they will be able to see the same things and not anything else in the new unified PO line task list.
Yeah.
If something you think is not presented the way you think it should be, please let us know. But essentially, everything should be the same.
Yep. And we had shown that when we did the library independent sessions as well. Okay, so let's move on now. So we already have a basic understanding of the PO line task list, but let's now start going in a little more in depth. There's basically three main elements we could say. I'm going to get rid of this pre-facet. So there's three elements here when we talk about this new interface. We've got the task list as facets. When we say task list as facets, we can say I want only those in claim. PO line claim, yes. And that's the task list of everything in claim. We've got the multi-select facets, like we did. The vendor was a hen. The purchase type was print book one time. The workflow step was sent. So we have the multi-facets. And we've got sensitive top actions, which we're going to talk about shortly. These are the sensitive top actions. We're going to get to those in a minute. So task list is facets. That's what we saw, that anytime I want to see all those in claim, I don't even need to come to acquisitions claim or acquisitions package. I can simply say PO line and claim, apply, and I'll automatically have it. So this is everything in claim. We've got the multi-facet options that I could say, okay, I want everything in claim, but I want only those in claim for electronic book one time. So then I can come over here and say I want purchase type electronic book one time. Here, electronic book one time. And now I've got the multi-facet. So I choose two facets and then apply, and then I've got them all together. So now I've got the PO line and claim and the electronic book one time. So the task list at facets, the example there is we chose PO line and claim. The multi-facets, we're able to mix that with something else. Then we've got the sensitive top actions. So we've got here create new PO. Create new PO is relevant when there are more than one purchase order line type in manual packaging. For example, if I were to come here and say that I want only those in workflow step manual packaging apply, now I could take two, which would be for the same vendor, because we can't package two purchase order lines for different vendors into the same purchase order line. Then I can say create new PO, and that will create a new purchase order line for both of these. If I were to choose two of them from separate vendors, this is from a vendor Aleph Polska, this is from the vendor Izafrani. If I were to create a new PO on that, it will tell me that they're of different vendors, are not the same vendor. There's other limitations there too on currency that can be defined somewhere else, but it has to be same vendor before we can package them together. Then we've got change expected date. So for example, if I had ones on claims, so instead of workflow step manual packaging, I'll take everything PO line and claim yes, apply that, and then if I decide I want to change multiples to a different expected date, notice it says expected date. It doesn't say expected arrival date or activation date. It's the expected date. So from here, I can take both of those and make a new date. For example, let's say we want, let's take November 29th. So now those will both have an expected date of November 29th. Expected date was updated for two out of two of the selected purchase order lines. So then we also have manage labels. Labels is something that can be added to the purchase order line. It's not the reporting code. The reporting code, as you know, is also in the purchase order line and then is inherited by the transaction. The transaction expenditure by default gets the same reporting code as was in the purchase order line. Then you can use analytics to start managing it. It's also possible here to add labels, another way of categorizing purchase order lines, and that too can be done in batch, we'll say, or by choosing multiples and manage labels. Let's say, for example, I wanted everything here which is not in claim for vendor Achen. I'll apply. And then if I choose two of them or more of them, and I say manage labels, add labels, so I can add another label here called webinars or whatever I want, and assign those to both of those purchase order lines. So now both of these purchase order lines will have a label, in this case, webinars. So those are the sensitive top actions. We can create a new purchase order line for multiple PO lines, or we can change the expected date, or we can add or remove the labels. Okay, I see some questions came in. Then we want to talk about the badges. Let's go take a look at the chat. Someone says, can you show where the label was? Okay, let's make this larger. So here is the add label. Here's the webinars. The label appears in the first section. The official name of this section is PO line summary. That's where the labels will appear. Here you can see it right here. Noam, if there's anything you want to add about the labels, go on. Let me just read the rest. Will these labels be shown for any user or only for the users who added them? For any user. If it's in there and a different user goes into this purchase order line, he or she will also see this label right here. Let's even do that just for the fun. We're not in a super rush here. We don't want to spend too much time. So I'm in now. In fact, this is good because I want to show who I'm logged into, because in a moment we're going to be looking at the badges of assigned to. So this is a historical archaeology of the Ottoman Empire. And this is the purchase order line. And I'm now logged in as Alicia Hen. I'm going to sign out of Alicia Hen. I'm going to log in as a different user. For example, I'm going to be Laura Jackson right now. And I will come to acquisitions and I don't want to. This user still has the older setup. This is the older setup, as you can see, because if the opt-in is according to each user can log in. This part here enabling it's per user. So I'm not going to log in as a different user. Excuse me. All users do see it. Actually, you know what? Right here, I'm going to configure it for myself. Look how easy it is. I'm configuring for myself the new layout. All I did was come here and go new layout configuration, and I chose that I want the new unified PO line task list. What could be easier? So now, here we go, all PO lines. So now I got it. So we want the Ottoman Empire. I just want to see, this is print book one time a hen. There it is. So I'm a different user. That answers the question. I see here the badge, and now I'm Laura Jackson. That was actually good because without even planning, we showed how you can quickly and easily, as a different user, enable it. Now I'm going to go into new layout configuration and disable it. Now I'm the same user, but I'll have the old system. So now I have order without inventory, review, claim. I don't have that all PO lines. So that's how easily you can switch back and forth. But if you try this at home right now, it requires other parameters behind the scenes. So let's wait. Okay, let me see any other chats here. Would it be possible to search orders by labels or refine by labels in facets? Noam, you want to make any comment there? Question
Let's
is,
try it.
Go ahead.
Try it, Yoel. You try it.
All right, let's give it a try. Order lines.
Do keywords or all. All is okay.
Okay,
There's
let's say keywords.
Just do all or all.
Okay. This is going to be great. Webinars. There we are. And we got that one. Oh, and now I'm getting it even though I'm in the old interface. Let me go back into but I still got it. Let me go back as our other user here. So the answer is you can search for it within the keywords, but Noam, there's not a dedicated label for it.
Correct. There's also facets, so you can use the facets as well.
Oh, wonderful. Let's go take a look at the facets then. All PO lines. There we are. So we can facet and search. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Okay. And that person also said excellent with a little smiley face. Okay, let's make sure I got everything. Okay, so let's go on now with indication of badges regarding the assignment. So I'm going to search for order lines database. And let that load a moment. Okay, when something is assigned to me, I'm Alicia Chen, as you see here. So it gets a dark gray badge. Not sure how the color is going through in the WebEx, but that's a dark gray badge. When something is assigned to someone else, it has a white badge. So this one is assigned to Thomas Safransky. So it has a white badge. This one is assigned to me, the logged in user. So it has a gray badge. Anytime we say those assigned to me, apply, we get this dark badge on anything assigned to me. Anything assigned to somebody else, To others, the badge is white. So you can clearly see those assigned to you and those assigned to others. Let's see, I saw a chat come in. Unassigned have none. Someone says why it's not possible to create a new PO for orders with different currencies. I'm aware it's not possible in the current interface. Noam, if I'm not mistaken, we have a parameter on that. Let me just go back on the question here. Some people use something called manual packaging, where you can take separate, this isn't related to what we're doing now, but someone asked it. So it's possible to create purchase order lines with a status manual packaging. Then you take those purchase order lines and package them manually into the same purchase order to send to the vendor. It has to be, logically speaking, the same vendor, because you're sending one purchase order with several purchase order lines to a vendor. So you can't have multiple vendors. But someone asks, why can't you do it for different currencies? And I believe we, at one time, made a, Noam, correct me if I'm wrong or anything. Don't we have a parameter?
I'm not familiar with it.
Pardon?
I'm not familiar with it.
Okay.
I'm not familiar with it.
Okay. Let's take that offline. Let's take it offline. We're not going to go into that now. It's not directly related to what we're doing now. And typically a vendor does want to get everything for the same currency, but I believe there's a parameter there. We'll talk offline. Let's not go too far out of our specific topic here. Okay, that brings us to the end of the session here. Noam, is there anything you want to add? And I'll also ask the audience here if there's anything else they want to add. Any questions or comments from the audience? Noam, any questions or comments from you?
Just one, I think something that is major change from the existing user interface to the new one is that the automatic assignment, when someone edits a purchase order line, currently it's automatically assigned to them. With the new interface, since we have this side-by-side presentation and users can touch a purchase order line without even editing it, there's no automatic assignment, meaning that in order to have a purchase order line assigned to a certain user will need to assign it either to themselves or to someone else. This was changed because we've heard from users in our user studies that they're a bit frustrated because they just wanted to look on a certain purchase order line and now it's assigned to them and their colleagues are not able to edit the purchase order line. So this is a change that was done. There's no automatic assignment. But the advantage of that is that now you have the ability to assign purchase order line in all statuses and not just purchase order lines in review. Let's just say, for example, you have purchase order line who are waiting for invoice, and there's a certain individual who handles subscriptions and another individual who handles one-time orders. You can assign waiting for invoice purchase order lines to these users, something that you cannot do today.
Okay, and we have an example right here. These are all waiting for invoice, and as you see, I can assign these to somebody.
Correct.
Somebody else says, could you filter POLs not received? If we wanted to get all POLs which were not received, we could do that via the workflow step. I don't think we'd want everything not received because not received would also be in review, but we're not even expecting it to be received. We could get everything that's sent. Once it's received, it becomes waiting for invoice, so we could get everything which is sent. This is everything which is not received. Somebody else asked, can you save your own searches with facets selected somewhere rather than use the predefined lists? I'm not aware of a way to save my predefined facets. Noam, anything on that?
So I understand the question. This is something that exists today in, I think, Rapido. We do have plans to enhance it, but currently when we release it to early testers, we do not allow this. Naturally, we will enable it in the future, yes.
Okay. All right, so thanks everybody for joining. As usual, we will be posting this recording, and we're glad everyone was able to join us, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.